So, I mean, I had this feeling about the Philadelphia Phillies when we were coming in today. Kevin Barker. I thought, man, they're awfully good. You know, they've won 25 of their first 36 games. It's the best record after 36 games. I mean, I'm looking at this. The Phillies have been around for 142 years, almost as much as me. And they've had two better starts than this. And the thing is, if you look at the Phillies historically, generally their seasons, they don't always begin well. This is Matt Gelb of The Athletic. The Phillies have existed for 142 seasons. They have authored a better start only 2 times before. Pardon me. There is supposed to be pain and suffering, anguish even. That is how Phillies seasons begin. It is in this franchise's fibers. So all of this is unsettling. And it is the Philadelphia Phillies who will entertain the Toronto Blue Jays for the next
Sounds like they don't know how to have fun.
2 days.
Enjoy it.
Rogers.
They got off to a really good
All right.
season. Their starting pitching's great. Their lineup has a bunch of really good names in it who know how to, look for certain pitches. I mean, they're really good at hitting a breaking ball. They're best in baseball. I think they got 14 homers. They're slugging almost 500 off the breaking ball. That's why Berríos tonight, you better be good, a little bit better with the changeup, maybe throw some more cutters to lefties. But, yeah, I mean, look, they got sort of, I think, everything to throw at you they need to throw at you. They can steal a base when they need to. They got power in the pen. They got experience. They got a manager that everybody loves. Like, what's not to like about the Phillies?
Now, let me add this. They have had the softest schedule in baseball. They've played 6 games against teams that are currently 500 or better. That's the fewest in baseball. Now, 10 of those games have been against Cincinnati and San Diego. So, I mean, it's not like we're not talking about White Sox. We're talking about teams that might be okay but aren't playing right now. They've just come off a 4-game sweep of the Giants. So, there is that to think about. But, we're going to be joined by Ben Davis in a few minutes, the Phillies TV analyst. And we talked with Ruben Amaro yesterday, another Phillies analyst, and Jason Stark as well. And we tried to, you look at this team and you try to come up with a weakness. And it's awfully hard. Maybe Trey Turner out for 4 to 6 weeks. Maybe that exposes them, although they've got Sosa and they've got Bryson Stott who can play shortstop and Whit Merrifield who can play second base. But, yeah, they are, they're awfully good. And as, the Matt's article pointed out, this is odd for the Phillies. The Phillies in the past have been really good at kind of digging themselves a hole and then trying to get the hell out of it. This is, they're on a 112 win pace.
Yeah, I think,
What happens if the Phillies win 112 games?
Well, I think it was more about, in the past, just making the playoffs. You got enough experience. You got enough talent. You got a high enough payroll that you think you just get in because of the pitching you have and the experience in the lineup you have and the thumpers who can hit a bunch of home runs, against some good pitching in the playoffs. You can make a run at that, and it's not always about winning divisions. I think sometimes when you face lesser competition, you still got to go out there and beat them. And I think that sort of gives you enough confidence that will carry over to teams that when, they can throw to your weakness, they can add and subtract, like Berríos. Can get after you if you're lefty with some cutters up and in, with some changeups down and away. He can adapt. If you're hammering some breaking stuff, he can be a little bit more fine with that. He can make that thing look a little bit more like a slider instead of a curveball. He can throw to sort of more guys' weaknesses. So, yeah, what's that saying? Good pitching beats a good hitting. And that's sort of, in these 2 games, the Jays are not going to be better off if they don't beat themselves. Don't run into outs, make the plays you're supposed to make. Hopefully they figure out their bullpen. I know Jimmy Garcia, they're going to, look at that today and make a decision one way or the other. So, yeah, it's right now the Jays are they've earned their record. And sometimes you got to face some good teams to, go out there and know that you have to play the game the right way. And if you don't, you're going to get your tail kicked. So, I don't expect anything differently. I'd love to see John Snyder. I think you were right yesterday, and I was wrong about the lineup of George Springer. It's time. Like, you can argue you're facing probably the second best team in baseball. Who's your 5 best hitters? Put those 5 guys in a row, however you want to put them, and then sprinkle in everybody else. And George Springer right now and Bo Bichette's not 2 of those 5 best hitters on your team. So for me, I would love to see John break it up and
I don't know if,
put the guys up front who deserve to be up front.
I went and looked just to make sure that I wasn't, not being too harsh on George, but you look at most of his numbers, and in terms of leadoff hitters, he has the worst average amongst leadoff hitters, worst or second worst. Who've had 100 plate appearances hitting out of the leadoff spot. The rest, he's kind of, if you look at the numbers, he's sort of 18th, 20th. Like it's not like he is among the very worst leadoff hitters. Well, actually, in some areas, he is among the very worst leadoff hitters in baseball. But it is compounded by the fact that until recently, the other 2 guys behind him really haven't. I
ask you, is he better than Varsho right now?
No.
Is he better than Vladdy right now?
No.
Is he better than Turner right now?
No.
Is he better than Jansen? Jansen's got Jansen's 7 for his last 23 homers, 4 RBIs, 5 walks his last 7 games. He ain't better than him. He's better than David Schneider?
No.
Then there's your answer. For me, again, sometimes you got to make out your lineup depending on who you're facing. And, the lefty today that they're facing and Sanchez, he's not no easy get. Like, his changeup's really good. You got to fight to not swing at it. Mm-hmm. And you think George Springer can go up there and have those at bats, or it's going to be the same old first pitch ground out to the third baseman, his head's hanging low, he's running back off the field. Like, I'm with you. Like, sometimes I think you got to let certain guys get out of their own way and let it play out. If everybody else was doing their thing, everybody else is not doing their thing, and right now they have better options. So, and quite frankly, Jose Berríos deserves it. Let's be honest. He deserves the quality at bats. Trying to give him a chance to have the lead, standing on a mound against a good team where every single pitch he throws is not like the 7th game of the World Series. Now, obviously, the 8th start of the season is not like that, but you get sort of the point, right, to where it'd be nice to just be out there free and easy. And if you mess up, you give up a hit or a homer, won't be the worst thing, because of the 5 or 6 guys that are top of the order are trying to give you a quality at bat, pass the baton that way, and some of them maybe runs into one because you got the lineup made out the right way. That's all.
Yeah, coming off the off day, the Jays, the Jays are 16-19. They are currently 4.5 out of the wild card. I'm just looking at this. I can't believe I'm looking at the standings. They're 7.5 out of first place. They're 2 wins behind the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are at 500. I mentioned the Jays are 16-19, so they're a game and a half back of the Rays, and they have a minus 37 run differential, and it's a tough draw for them. Now, they had yesterday off. They have Thursday off, so they should be able to get their starting pitching lined up the way they wanted to do. As you said, we're kind of waiting, I think, to get some sort of clarity on Jimmy Garcia. I've got to think at some point, if he's not available, you have to put him in the IL. I don't pretend to know who would come up to fill that role. The Jays yesterday signed Aaron Sanchez to a minor league contract, and social media got all, why are they doing? Well, folks, they're just signing him because they got nobody at AAA to start. Like, nobody's looking at signing Aaron Sanchez as a turning point in the season. But it's a sign of how thin this organization suddenly has found itself in pitching, that they've added 3 pitchers in the last 3 days. They've added a couple of minor league dudes, Bo Sulser. They signed another. I'm trying to find the name of the guy. They acquired another guy for cash considerations from the Houston Astros a couple of days ago. There's a pitching issue up and down this organization. Never mind that the bullpen right now is probably one of the least effective bullpens in baseball.
Yeah, right now you could argue it's the worst bullpen in baseball.
Well, statistically, it is.
There's some guys down there.
I prefer to say least effective.
I mean, that's a nice way. You're awfully nice today, which is sort of nice to see. And I know you're trying to change your ways and be the better person in the room.
No, I'm not trying to be the better person.
Yeah.
No, I'm not trying to be the better person in the room. I don't care if
sometimes you got to call a spade a spade. I mean, just right now, the team as a whole is just not good enough. You got quite a few role players in your lineup trying to not be role players and help an organization start stringing together some wins. Not the easiest thing to do. And you try and run back sort of the same exact bullpen as you had last year and expect them to look exactly the same way. It's just an impossible look. And you're depending on a lot of like the Cabreras and the Pearsons and the Pops and the two lefties that are done. Like there's a lot to ask. And then a guy that's quite frankly getting a little older and Jimmy Garcia who, starts changing things, throwing harder stuffs off the charts. Body's just not used to doing that. So sooner or later, that thing was going to break down, and it was going to look the way he looked. And all of a sudden, now Trevor Richards in the 8th inning, here you come. So you're going to have to be really good. Like John's going to have to be almost perfect matching up and trying to keep the lefties away from as many right-handed hitters as he possibly can and making always the right move. It's not going to be the easiest thing to do. So this is what I said. This is even more reason it's time to move George Springer down the order. I mean, it may not help, but at least John can come out, after the game if they lose and go, hey, you know what? I did everything I can do with what I'm working with. Like,
my whole point with it yesterday, I don't want to go over the whole thing again, but my whole point was, to me, George Springer's done nothing to not warrant being moved down in the order. I just don't understand it.
4 for 31 and 12 Ks, 1 RBI. He's hitting 167 off a lefty.
I get accused. I understand I get accused of standing up for Bo too much and all that. That's fine. But, Bo's moved down in the lineup. Vladdy, we're starting to see, I'd like to leave Vladdy second right now because I'm starting to see some things from him. I'm starting to see some results. If you had to rank the top 4 and say, in terms of what you're worried about right now, 1, you're not worried about Turner. 2, Guerrero. 3, Bichette. 4, Springer. That's how I'd rank them in terms of worry. Turner, I don't, we're not worried about Turner at all. So I don't mind leaving Vladdy second, but I just don't. If it's okay to move Bo Bichette, then it ought to be okay to move George Springer. And I wouldn't even have an issue moving Bichette back into the league.
Yeah, I think you got to ask yourself on an off day.
Now, lefty, I don't know what you're not going to move Varsho into the leadoff spot against Christopher Sanchez.
Put Schneider up there. Put Bo Bichette in the 5 hole. Put Varsho in the 6 hole. Like you can maneuver things around when there's a lefty on them. I think lefties against Sanchez are hitting 105. Yeah, it's not the smartest of things, but at least it's telling your team that here's our best 5 or 6 hitters that we think should get more at bats than the other guys. And, if you don't want to move Bo any lower than 5, then don't move Bo any lower than 5. And, at least you're putting George out of that, moving him down a little bit further, 6th or 7th. And you're putting some guys up there who deserve to have more at bats and at least give yourself a chance. You are facing one of the better teams in baseball. It ain't going to go well if other guys are getting more at bats than guys that should be getting those at bats. So for me, it's a no-brainer. It's an easy sell. Like all you got to do is call George in there and go, hey, what would you do if you were me?
All right, if you
could not even play. Do
you think John will do that?
I think he should do that. Absolutely.
Do you think he will do it?
I think this is a no-brainer. That's a tough call. Like I have no idea what's going on behind closed doors.
It's not a one-man decision, I don't think, is it?
I think so. Again, I'm going to go back to this. From what I've heard and what we've been told about the information's being given, John does with the information what John wants to do with the information. And DeMarlo Hill, for me, and John Snyder are, having a little get-together in that room and deciding on who's hitting where and, who's hitting behind who. So however the lineup is constructed, that is John and DeMarlo Hill for me. So, yeah, I think 1,000% it is. That's why I said it's a no-brainer. That's not even a thought. 4 for 31, sitting 167 against lefties. Like, it's not even just those 2 numbers right there. And if Springer's got a problem with that, you go 167 against lefties, 4 for your last 31. And then you're hitting like 120 with runners on base and 130 with runners in scoring position. Like, I got no choice other than I just don't play you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to play you because you can steal a base and you're playing really, really good defense. You're not carrying your offense to the defensive side, which I really like. But I have to move you down. So deal with it. Just the way it is. It's nothing personal. I'm just trying to win baseball games.
In fairness to George, I think George is a better defensive right field than he is center field.
Oh, absolutely.
And that is one thing that has to be said is he has not. And he's a veteran guy. I wouldn't expect him necessarily to carry his offensive issues.
Well, he hasn't.
Into the field.
Defense has been really good.
But
and to get back to that Gibby thing he told me once, sometimes I do it just so I don't have to answer the question. Well, John, coming off an off day, who could argue with you moving George Springer down? Nobody.
Yeah, I don't think
there wouldn't even be an argument. Why would you even ask?
Think there would be an argument, but
Hazel's going to say, "Well, why'd you move George down?" And John could say, "You've watched George lately? Got no choice. I'm facing a really good team. We're trying to score as many runs as we can." And Jose Berríos deserves it. There's a reason.
I want to ask you this, Steve. Is consistency in the lineup important? Like, are you?
I think if you're a really good lineup,
are you? No, that's a great point. That's pretty much the easiest way to put it.
Phillies are a really good lineup. I'm sure they're very consistent. I've dug into what they're doing every day.
How much maneuvering do you think is too much? I'm not saying that John Schneider's done it. Clearly, if I had my way, there'd be more maneuvering. But as someone who's played the game, at what point would you go say, okay, time out here. We're doing too much. Is it just basically putting guys in situations where, one, they can't handle what they're being asked to do, or two, they don't warrant it? It doesn't warrant it.
You got to have a better option. What's your better option? As long as you got a better option, how can they argue? Like, how would George get mad? How would Bo Bichette get mad? They can't. Like, they couldn't. You could hit George and Bo 8th and 9th, and they can't argue that. Like, it's performance-driven, I think, right now enough, just because of who's on the mound, who they're facing, and what they're trying to do and where they're at in the standings. Like, this thing could get away from them in a real hurry. It might already have. I mean, again, you just said the standings and the third wild card. I mean, they're right in that. They go on a decent little run. They're right back in that thing. So, it's better late than never, right? I mean, I think, again, it just gets back to that. If you put either that Varsho or Davis Schneider up there, I mean, who can argue that? Both of them guys are giving you at-bats. That's all.
Yeah. No, I don't you're 3 games under 500 right now. If you lose these 2 games, you're 5 games under 500. It's not so much where they are in the standings for me, because I really don't care at this time of the year. Provided you're not, like, if you're the Chicago White Sox, you care. If you're double digits back already, that's not a good thing. But I just need to see. I need to see something different from this team. I need to see. I need to see something that suggests somebody is trying to make it better. And I'm not interested in hearing about the process. I need to see tangible evidence that somebody is trying to make this lineup and this team better. And we haven't seen it. And again, I don't, I'm not saying that I would have gone out and traded for Luis Arias. I'm not. But I haven't seen a lot from this general manager that would make me think that he's capable of pulling off the type of move that drastically alters things.
I think that's fair.
Early in the year.
And if you're John Schneider,
I haven't. I could be wrong.
This is what John's given.
But
like you work with what you got, and what you got right now is George Springer leading off. Is not real good at his job. You have to make adjustments. You have to adapt and overcome. You give your team the best chance to win a game. And quite frankly, the Dalton Varshos, the Davis Schneiders, the Danny Chances, the Justin Turners, the Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s deserve more at bats than the Bo Bichettes and the George Springers of the world. Just right now they do.
The other thing that kind of concerns me here is, and there have been so many issues with this team that maybe we've been guilty of not, we, people in general, have been guilty of kind of letting the whole bullpen thing slip. But in the very least, if I'm Ross Atkins, I've got to at least be thinking of what I did a couple of years ago when I brought Trevor Richards and Adam Simber in and kind of stabilized things. Now, I understand it's a different time, different situation. I get all that. last year when he brought Simber and Richards in, I don't think the first move was made until the end of May. I get all that. But my point is, I'm wondering if maybe, I don't know what you can do to cure the lineup of its issues right now. I don't know if there's anything you can do if Bo Bichette and Vladdy don't hit.
Make it look better. Vladdy's hitting now.
But do you think maybe you've got to at what point does this bullpen become a concern? Because you are talking you are talking about a lot of guys, and you made this point. God love Trevor Richards, but I mean that could come to an end at some point. Adam Simber was great, and it at some point stopped being great. Jordan Romano's being babied right now, and that's fine. I don't mean that negatively. I think there's a health concern there. Eric Swanson, basically, I don't think you can pitch Eric Swanson right now. I mean, who the hell knows what you're going to get from Genesis Cabrera in any given night? Nate Pearson. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is the Nate Pearson of 2 years ago. It's almost, I don't know what happened to the Nate Pearson we saw early in the year. I'm wondering if maybe that needs to be a focus for the Blue Jays right now is doing something to bolster that bullpen.
Yeah, they've lost 9 of 12. The relievers' ERA over those 12 games are a 5.65. Yes. The pitching staff as a whole is allowing 5.25 runs per game. That's way too many.
Yeah. Pitching
and defense wins baseball games. The lineup, I'm just not sure how you could fix that. They need an aircraft carrier coming in here. Who do they got to get that? That's going to be real tough to get, but you could go out and get you a better, arm angle guy. You start from the back, right? You got your ninth inning guy. You feel comfortable with Romano, and then there's everybody else. Do you have an eighth inning guy if Jimmy Garcia's not here? And I have been told they are going to address that today. That will be one way or the other. They will go to the field and figure out what's going on with that, and they're going to adjust and do what they have to do.
So they will make a decision. We'll know something further on.
Sounded like it whenever
good
I
or
was
bad.
Either way, yeah. I mean, he's been out long enough now. You got to make a decision. Yeah, and this can Trevor Richards give you an eighth inning meat of the order? It's a lot to ask. So. If you're Ross, and is Ross fighting for his job? That's the thing, right? It's you gotta again. I think that's the easiest way to go. If you think you can get you an eighth inning guy, try and go out and get you an eighth inning guy. If you get that, think maybe if you can get you a seventh inning guy to where you're not having to put certain guys in your bullpen that you don't want to put in your pen just because it doesn't make your team real good and it makes it real tough for John and Pete Walker to make the right decision all the time. That's not the easiest job. Again, I'm not making excuses for him, but man alive, who can do that? You're trying to keep two lefties away from righties, and guys are having tough time keeping their best pitch in the yard. Good luck going to the right dude. The ninth inning guy you got, it's either you can't pitch him a ton, or when he does pitch, does he ooze confidence? And it's just that there's a lot going on.
And I've got to say this. When you're a team that is struggling to score runs the way the Blue Jays are, there is something particularly disheartening about losing a game 11-8. No one ever wants to lose a game 11-8, but if you're the Blue Jays and you were leading 6-1 at one point in the game, and reasonable expectations of winning that game, makes the off day feel a little different. Yeah, it's just kind of, what's the difference between 17 and 18 or 16 and 19? I get that. But there's something particularly disheartening about a team that is having an issue scoring runs, that finally scores runs. And I don't care if you're helped by the fact the other team makes 4 errors or whatever. The fact is you're scoring runs, and then your bullpen gives it up. There have been some losses this year, but that one I thought was particularly disheartening.
Yeah, sports is about a lot of confidence, right? If you don't have confidence, that's coaching player-wise. And, you got a big lead. You want to attack the zone. You want to get guys out with your best secondary stuff. Do you see Alek Manoah do that? No. And you bring guys in who are giving it up, and you're using them when you don't want to use them too long in an outing. When you'd rather be using somebody else, right? Not having Chad Green's a big deal for this team.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garcia, sort of being on the shelf and, not solidifying the eighth inning, not solidifying sort of that hybrid role where, he comes in and puts the fire out. They just don't. They don't really have that guy.
This is the easiest way to look at it. Going into the season, with a healthy Jordan Romano, who were we looking at as the guys you'd probably want in the eighth?
Green and Garcia.
Green, Garcia, and Swanson maybe even. Those three relievers. Green has been hurt. Garcia's now been hurt, and Swanson's been
awful.
Mm-hmm. We're not talking one guy. We're talking, how do you manage a bullpen? How do you, sweet Jesus, there can't be enough pockets, to try to hide the guys you're running out there right now if you're John Schneider. A couple of those guys, where the best pockets are? They're in AAA. They're the best pockets for them.
Well said.
And that's, so anyhow, this is, we'll see what happens with the lineup. But
they do have Berríos going, which is a big deal, right? He's been their best. He's oozing confidence, which should, sort of ooze into everybody else trying to go out there and do their job. So, play good defense behind him, run the bases the way you're supposed to run the bases. Sanchez, he will give up some hits. He will walk you. You have to lay off the changeup. I think he throws his changeup somewhere in that 36%.
A lot. It's just under.
Not, I think he don't throw it in the zone a lot.
No, but he uses the changeup.
Well, you try and take it. Like you gotta have good at bats. You gotta have a plan going up there. You gotta. What's his best pitch? I don't want to try and hit that. Nobody else can. Why should I try? So just try and lay off it. Try and take it. Don't throw it in the zone a ton. He throws you 3 of them, locates them, tip your hat, walk away. Bet he can't do that till you 3 at-bats in a row. So that's sort of the at-bats you have to take. You do that, passing the baton that way. That's called a big league approach. Again, this just gets back to that sort of who you're facing, who's on the mound for you. You do what you have to do, those kind of things, and hopefully the manager does and the lineup does, and Jose Berríos can go out there and command and stay away from the big inning with that breaking ball. Boy, that breaking ball is going to be a big deal for him.
The Phillies are 9-1 in their last 10 games. They're 14-6 at home. 6:40 will be the first pitch tonight from Citizens Bank Park. Jose Berríos for the Blue Jays. Christopher Sanchez for the Phillies. Ben Davis is a Phillies TV analyst. He'll join us next. We'll take a deeper dive into the Phillies. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Really. Is this Abuse the Host Day?
Oh, you're easy to pick on.
Oh, here's the note. By the way.
I don't need this. It's all right here.
It's Blair and Barker. 6:40 is the first pitch tonight from Philadelphia. Jose Berríos against Christopher Sanchez. Folks, we spent the first part of the show talking about it. The Phillies are awfully good. Mm-hmm. They may be historically good. Now, it's early. But, man, when you look at the numbers and start looking ahead to what the end of the year could look like.
Their pitching really good.
Pitching's tremendous. Ben Davis is the Phillies TV analyst, former MLB catcher, joining us now on Blair and Barker. Ben, thank you for doing this as always. Kevin, we had Ruben Amaro on yesterday. We had Jason Stark on yesterday. Kevin led with the first question to them, and I'm gonna lead this time with the first question to you. What is the Phillies' weakness? Because we have spent 2 days poking through things, and I haven't really been able to come up with one yet.
That's a good question, and thanks for having me on, guys. Right now, honestly, they're doing everything right. They're clicking on all cylinders. It's all 26 guys. They are all doing their jobs. And it's just been really fun to watch. This is a really good baseball team right now. I don't want to get overconfident, but I think the sky's the limit with this ball club right now. They're going to have their ups and downs. I know that. Every ball club goes through it, 162 games. But right now, they're just doing everything right. They're very professional about their business. They don't look back on what they did yesterday. They're not looking forward to tomorrow. Right now, they're worried about Jose Berríos and the Blue Jays tonight. That's it. What's
the biggest difference in Alec Baum this year from last year?
He's always been a good hitter. He's just, he's a guy like Bryce Harper. They think they can hit everything, and that's a great way to look at hitting. But I think right now he's knowing what he can hit hard and what he can't hit hard. Yes, he can get his bat on a lot of balls, but he's staying more within the zone. He's not chasing as much because when he swings the bat, most likely he's putting ball in play. But he's just condensed his strike zone. He's a big dude with a really short swing, and that's a good combo to have.
Why are the Phillies so good at hitting the breaking ball? I think they've got 14 homers and slugging 447 off the breaking ball. Those two things are best in baseball. Why are they so good at it?
Well, I think because they're staying in the middle of the diamond. They're not rushing out to get balls. They trust themselves enough to stay back, and let the ball come to them. So even if they're even if they get out a little bit out in front, they're keeping their hands back because most of them want to stay in the middle of the diamond, left center, right center. And if they get a breaking ball, they're able to turn on it and hit it out to their pull side. This is just a lineup that I'm telling you, 1 through 9, they have speed. I think they had 7 stolen bases against the Giants in that 4-game series. They hit the ball out of the ballpark. They've been very good with runners in scoring position. So they're doing just about everything right. But I would say staying in the middle of the diamond has them staying back on the breaking ball a lot more.
Okay, if you're catching Jose Berríos tonight, we all know he's got a really good breaking ball. He called it slurve. He's got a breaking ball. He's got a slider. Like it's morphed. He'll morph it depending on who's up at the plate and how he wants it to end up. What are you doing? At your best pitch, you know a team hammers that. What do you do if you're catching Jose Berríos?
I would say probably call a few more sinkers. This is a ballpark much like the Rogers Center. The ball jumps, and it's going to be warm tonight. It's warm down here. It's a beautiful day. But I would think that he could attack this lineup with a few more sinkers, because right now the way they're going, if he does hang a breaking ball, it might end up in the seats. And, I think you have a better command of that sinker if a little bit more. He could use that to his advantage, especially to a lot of the righties, maybe crowd them a little bit, and that'll open up the breaking ball in the outside corner.
Yeah.
And a guy that really intrigues me is Jeff Hoffman. I mean, here's a guy that was part of the Troy Tulowitzki trade that Alex Anthopoulos made when he was here. And at the time he was, it was the Jays organization. You had people who really liked him. You had people who had no idea what they were going to end up with. And as a matter of fact, I know one person in the organization said ultimately he may be a reliever. That person looks like a genius right now because he's unhittable at this point. When did this happen? How did this happen?
Well, it was last year. He was basically when Bryce Harper was rehabbing his surgically repaired elbow. Hoffman was like his. He had it out in his contract, but Hoffman was basically his live batting practice pitcher.
Really?
And he would he'd travel with the team. He would throw to Bryce Harper, get those live at bats, whether that be on the road or at home or wherever. And Bryce Harper said, "Hey, this guy's good. This guy's really good." And they ended up, keeping him there, and he didn't opt out of his contract, and he has been a godsend. And it's high-leverage situations, which he's worked himself into last year. Rob Thompson said last year, he goes, he's earned the right to be in high-leverage situations, and we trust him. And he can give you one inning. He can give you a couple innings. He can get you a ground ball. He can punch your ticket if he comes in man on third, less than 2 outs, where you really need that strikeout. He can do that. But he's been a godsend. And it's not just against righties. It's righties and lefties. He's got an arsenal to get you out with.
Ben, you've been in clubhouses before whenever somebody's reading the scouting report sort of to themselves, and then they say out loud, make sure you see the ball up, right? And you see Christopher Sanchez, and then you read that second highest ground ball percentage in baseball at 62.2%. And then you keep reading, and it sounds like his best pitch is changeup. And then if you heard that guy say, make sure you get the ball up, how would you do that, right? I know he don't like to throw, or I guess he's maybe not trying to throw his changeup in the zone a ton. I think 36%, which is not a ton, right? Doesn't seem like it's for strikes. He wants to get swing and miss. Seems like this sort of the arm slot and the release point all looks the same on all of his pitches. Scouting report on him, and how would you attack him if you're facing him?
Well, I would not give him both sides of the plate until I got to 2 strikes. I'd be a guy that would be diving off him if I'm batting right-handed. I'd be diving out over the plate. If it starts at your knees, take it because it's going to end up being low below the zone. His changeup was not good his last start. He just didn't have a feel for it. It's a pitch. Obviously, it's a field pitch, but it's a pitch that he didn't have in his last out, and he got roughed up a little bit. But if he's got the good sinker changeup combo, because everything's out of the same slot. This dude's a huge guy. I mean, you're talking 6'6", 6'7", whatever he is. And he's got the same release point on the sinker and the changeup. You just don't know if it's going to be 95 or 87. So, if that's a pitch for him tonight, it could give the Blue Jays some fits. But I would eliminate the inside part of the plate until I got to 2 strikes. If he dots you inside, so what? You tip your cap and wait for the next one. But, the breaking ball has been a little bit better for him this year. But predominantly and he's mixing in cutter as well. But you're going to predominantly see sinkers and changeups.
Is Bryson Stott basically going to be the shortstop in Trey Turner's absence? And what does that mean, for example, for Whit Merrifield and his playing time?
Well, I think you're going to see some playing time go up for Whit Merrifield, especially at second base. I think that Bryson Stott's going to get the lion's share at shortstop, and I mean that's what he was drafted as a shortstop. He's very athletic. He's got the arm to play shortstop. He had a brilliant play last night in the first inning to start a 6-4-3 double play. But I think predominantly he's going to be out there. Maybe they get a tough lefty on the mound, maybe Chris Sale, someone like that. Maybe you'll see Edmundo Sosa at shortstop, which is his natural position as well. So, but I think Stott's going to get the lion's share, and you're going to see Whit Merrifield, who's starting to swing a hot bat. I think you're going to see him at second base predominantly.
I asked Ruben if he was running the Phillies, he could add a piece at the trade deadline. What would it be? He gave me an answer. I think of maybe an extra bullpen arm. I ask you the same question. What would it be?
Probably a left-handed power bat off the bench. I think that would be, possibly something that the Phillies could go with. I like the bullpen where they're at right now. They have an arsenal of lefties out there with Alvarado, Soto, and Strom that can get anybody out. And then obviously the righties are doing their job. But I would say a power left-handed bat off the bench.
Ben, can you feel a different vibe around the team after how the season ended last year? Is that a thing?
I think it started in spring training. I do. There was a different edge to them in spring training. As I said before, they're very professional. They go about their business. These guys are pros. And they come in every day, blinders on, going to work, and they work their tails off. But I will say that I think last year left a really bad taste in their mouth, having been up 2-0 and going out to Arizona and then coming home with 2 games in hand at home against the Diamondbacks to get onto the World Series, and they put up 3 runs in 2 games. I think that left a terrible taste in their mouth. I think they came back with vengeance this year in spring training. They wanted to right the ship and get off to a hot start, and they've done that.
Yeah.
Ben, really good of you to join us today. Thanks so much. Terrific insight, man, as always.
Thanks, buddy.
Be well.
Guys. Should be a good couple games.
Yeah,
absolutely.
See you later.
Take care.
Have
Ben
a good
Davis, Phillies TV analyst, former MLB catcher. 6:40 will be the first pitch tonight.
I used to work out with him in Arizona in the offseason with Jeff Jenkins and a couple other guys. And it's interesting to hear how he talks about hitting from both sides of the plate and how he would approach and diving out over. Nobody ever says dive out over the plate. Like, that's a no-no. Like, you want to keep same direction, and that screams out and around. But just hearing a guy sort of, having an approach and sticking with it. Like, I think that's sort of when you listen to people around the Jays, that's what they struggle with is, boy, if you're going to buy into something, buy into it, sell out to it, you live and die with it. And maybe that's what they have to do. I know if I were facing Sanchez tonight, I would try and not swing at the changeup. Why? He doesn't throw it for a strike. It is a really good pitch for him. He's going to probably put emphasis on that between starts. Wasn't good last time. Wants it to be better this time. Probably going to work on having a better feel for it. You think they can go up there and lay off it? That for me, even more reason to put Springer down in the order. You can see that aggressive nature, wanting to get off to a good start against a good team, swinging a bad changeup down on the way to rolling over, and it's sort of feeling that Groundhog Day. Until you get maybe a Davis Schneider walking to the plate, looking like Hulk Hogan and can hit a ball to the moon if a guy hangs a sinker or a changeup. So be intriguing to see just how they attack a guy that's left-handed that can work both sides of the plate and do it with different speeds. Because you do have to sell out and buy into an approach.
Yeah, completely different left-hander than the guy you saw on Sunday.
Yeah, it's more here it is, see if you can hit it kind of thing. Yeah.
Completely different approach. Does that make it any more difficult? Coming after facing a guy. Now, admittedly, the Nationals did go in the bullpen, but you know what I mean. The last lefty you faced is a guy who's try to hit this. I dare you. Now you come in against a guy who's going to be a little craftier, for want of a better description.
He's got 3 pitches. Again, and one of them's really hard to hit. He throws the sinker 49% of the time. Start there. I can live with a lineup sort of saying, okay, forget about your changeup and your slider. Look, unless you hang me one, I ain't going to hit it hard anyway.
Yeah.
I got a better chance of if you get that sinker up and I can catch it out front. All you think about with sinkers is point of contact. That's the biggest deal, is I want to catch that thing out in front of my front leg. Because if I let it travel a little bit, that's a ground ball. Whatever side of the diamond it's a ground ball, it's still a ground ball because of point of contact. So all you're telling yourself, 49% of the time, I'm looking for the sinker up. and I'm trying to catch it out in front of my front leg. Simplify that much until you get to 2 strikes, and then you just sort of have to do whatever you have to do. So that's the thing, right? Are they good enough as a whole, as a lineup, to say, nobody else can hit these 2 secondary pitches? Why should I even try and look for him?
Yeah.
Instead of going up and, saying, he struggled against the changeup last time, he's really going to be throwing it a lot this time. I'm going to look for it. Okay, you must be the only guy that thinks you can hit it. And then that sort of sends a negative vibe throughout your entire lineup that, I see you get out on it, and then it sort of changes your game plan and you get all out of whack. And, then you look up and it's 6 scoreless and you've only got 1 hit. So for me, simplify it. Look up and catch it out front.
Yeah, I just keep getting back to something you mention all the time. The thing Derek Jeter said about looking for the fastball.
Look right down the middle. Don't give him that much credit, right? Again, Sanchez gives up a bunch of hits. He walks some guys. Mm-hmm. It's not like he's a perfect pitcher. And I think sometimes you see the lineup as a whole. Maybe it's a lot of the overthinking it, and, he throws this and this count. He gets ahead of you this way. With 2 strikes, he throws you this. And then you get up there and it doesn't happen that way. And it sort of just throws you all out of whack. When hitting a lot of the times, Jeff, is just it's a simple thing. If I'm mechanically sound and I'm not trying to overswing and I'm just thinking, see it above my knee, I want to catch this thing out front. That will tell you need to be on time. You need to be athletic. You need to stay controlled throughout your entire swing. And if you do that and you see it up, sort of a simple approach that, gets you between the years not overthinking it, which, you think long, think wrong.
Appreciate Ben Davis.
He's really good. I've known him forever. He's a good person, and it's like throwing to a barn door. I don't know if you've ever met him. He is a giant human.
Massive human.
Oh, he's a monster human. He really is, but he's a really nice guy, and he was fun to talk to when I was hitting with him. It's sort of that little group, right? Everybody lived in Arizona, and let's meet here. And
I think it was
soft toss.
He's one of those guys I used to look at him and go, man, how on earth are you catching?
He's a big target.
Because
he's a good thrower.
He is a big target.
Switch hitting catchers make a lot of money.
Yeah, I know, but I used to just think, I used to look at him the same thing. Who was the guy the Jays had? Was it Josh Phelps?
Yeah.
That they had big catcher.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole organizational thing was, well, maybe he's too big to catch, and it'd be too hard on the body and all this stuff. But yeah, Ben Davis is just a massive.
Yeah,
massive
I wonder
human.
if he had it to do over with, would he eliminate one side of the plate, not be a switch hitter? He wasn't a real good hitter. I think that's sort of what kept him out of the big leagues a longer period of time. Hitting was not his strength.
No.
And I think it was trying to be good on both sides of the plate, which is not easy. Like, you got to, I bet if he'd had it to do over with a lot of left-handed hitting catchers with power, because he's got power. Like, he had tremendous leverage with the lower half. He's got tree trunks for legs, right? You can throw that good behind the plate. Maybe if he had to do it over, he'd have just been a one-sided guy and try and go up and play his cards that way.
It's got to be awfully hard to give that up, though.
Well, I mean, you made it to the big leagues that way, right?
Awfully hard to
take
give
a pick
up.
overall in the draft. Like, you got to pay a little bit.
Pick, yeah.
You got to pay a little bit of money too. So, again, it gets back.
It's kind of hard after you've been drafted second overall to say, you know what, guys, I don't think I'm going to switch hit anymore.
Get back to that Gibby thing where I used to ask, why is the lefties not trying to hit it where they ain't? He'd always well, Mark, it's because they didn't get to the big leagues that way. And you're like, in some kind of dumb way, that's really smart. Gibby, like, it is. Sometimes he just said some genius things, I think, without trying to, and it makes a ton of sense. It's like the lineup, Jeff, where sometimes you do it so you don't have to answer the question. And fingers crossed that Mr. John Snyder tries to do that and sort of, puts everybody in the right spots to try and help his team win a game.
What's going to be a sign for you early in the game that Jose Berríos is just continuing on the path we've already seen?
Well,
because this is going to be one of the best lineups. It's going to be one of the best lineups he's going to face.
I think this is the best lefties he's going to face.
Correct.
Like, they are, most of them lefties are raring and ready to go, and they are hunting spin. And that's all he does is spin. So that's why I think the cutter up and in the lefties is going to be a big deal. I think changing the speeds and being unpredictable with the changeup is a big deal for him, which will open the window for him to be able to set the spin up and, be able to get away. He's a human. He's not perfect. He's not going to throw that thing all the time where he wants it, and it's going to end up where, he wants it to end up. So, you got to set it up a little bit better. I'm not saying be scared to throw it because it's his pitch, and it always starts a fastball command. But I think the cutter up and in, just to keep him honest, he throws hard enough, that pitch moves enough. It'll make him that much more uncomfortable, opens the more, windows. These dudes are veterans. They hunt windows.
Mm-hmm.
Veteran guys hunt windows. It's like Salvador Perez, and I never will forget the conversation Buck was having on air with basically himself with Salvador Perez up, saying that basically these run producers sit spin with 2 strikes. It seems to me like the veteran lefties for the Phillies sit spin a lot. Berríos don't throw 99. It's more that 93, 94, 95 range. So they're going to be sitting spin a bunch at the time. So that's what I said. Go a little outside the box, throw some more cutters, maybe elevate the four-seamer, keep it in the same lanes, throw strike one, get ahead. Just be yourself out there, do it with confidence. Don't shy away from it. Just set it up a little bit better. He does that, he'd be fine.
Joe Siddall is in Philadelphia with the Blue Jays. He and Dan Shulman will have the call of the game tonight, and he's going to join us at 3:30. Hopefully we'll have the lineup by then. Chris Rose, host of the Chris Rose Rotation in Baseball Today. He'll join us in a few minutes as well. I've got to think that he's going to be a little excited about his Cleveland Guardians.
Should be.
And we've got tickets to give away to see the Twins and Jays at the Rogers Center. We will do that later on in the show. 6:40 today. A reminder, tomorrow's a 1:40 first pitch. We will be on following the game with Blue Jays Talk on television. And I'm going to throw out the number for the back leg line, 416-413-3959. Call us up during the game. Leave your name and location, and we will get to your calls and texts after the game. 590-590 is the text line, and you can text us or phone us during the game, and we will get to your texts and your calls following the game. Blair and Barker will be doing Blue Jays Talk tonight following the game, a 6:40 first pitch. José Berríos against Christopher Sanchez, and it'll be interesting to see now that the Leafs are done and dusted, and the sports focus turns more on the Blue Jays. It will be interesting to see if there's a different tone to things, because we had a caller last week talk about wondering how come there wasn't more pressure on Ross Atkins, and somebody texted me, well, the reason is because right now people are getting ready to unload on on the Maple Leafs, and once the Maple Leafs are done, there will be a greater focus on the Blue Jays, and I really do wonder about that. If you are the Blue Jays, it would be a good time to excite the fan base, because people are going to be really, really grumbly.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need your bosses to step up and do some things, and maybe the Blue Jays are here. Maybe this is, it just seems like I'm not sure that what they're running out there on an everyday basis can handle what they're selling. Like the front office is selling to fan base that, they believe in the core. Do they still believe in the core? I mean, I'm not giving up on Bo and Vladdy, because I think Bo is a really good hitter, and I think Vladdy is oozing talent. But are they aircraft carriers and going to carry this team for months at a time? That is a ton to ask, because I don't know if we've really seen that for long periods of time. We've seen it in small sample sizes. We've seen Bo do that, for a week and a half at a time, where he can get the big hit. That's why you've seen John moving around the order when he's smoking hot to drive in runs, to him be the guy to come up with the runner in scoring position. But be interesting to see how the stretch, just this little time here takes place, and see how guys step up.
We have Chris Rose. We have Joe Siddall. I have tickets to give away. Don't go anywhere. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590 The Fan and Sportsnet. Welcome back to Blair and Barker for was today Tuesday?
Sure. It is, yeah.
6:40 is the first pitch tonight. That much I know, as the Jays will start a very brief 2-game series against their arch rival, Philadelphia Phillies.
Wow.
I've still never really found out why this is supposedly the Jays' rivalry series. I mean, I understand it goes back to the World Series. I get all that, but it's just, I don't know. Is anybody in Toronto? Do you get a massive hate on for the Phillies? I don't know.
No.
I don't think so. Anyhow, let's bring in Chris Rose. He's host of the Chris Rose Rotation and Baseball Today. Your Cleveland Guardians, my friend, they are a beast. Well, I don't know about a beast, but I'll tell you what, they're a whole hell of a lot better than I thought they were going to be.
Me too. They're going to have a tough next month without Stephen Kwan, who just got put on the injured list with a bad hammy. He was on his way to an all-star season and leading the league in hits and et cetera, et cetera. They win a lot of games, tight, low-scoring games. That's just the way they are. And it's pretty remarkable that they've done it without two of their three best starting pitchers. Obviously, Bieber's out the year. Gavin Williams, who was a kid who came up last year, fireballer, was supposed to be right at the top of the rotation with Tanner Bybee kind of squeezed in between those two. And somehow they've done it. Stephen Vogt has done a remarkable job. The bullpen's been phenomenal. I don't know if in the division this year, which is remarkably improved, if they'll be able to hang on. But I think they'll be in it.
Yeah, we had Jason Stark on yesterday, and we were talking about that division. And other than the White Sox, who are abject, I was saying, look, when we talk about the wild card, we always look at the East, and you got to keep an eye on what's going on in the West. But it's entirely possible that in addition to somebody's going to win the Central, and it's possible that another team, I think it's possible anyhow, another team out of that division comes on and grabs one of the wild card spots. I don't think it's that outrageous at all.
Not at all. I mean, all you have to do is just let your eyes don't look at the last few years there's been one team and everybody else has sucked, and then when the Central gets to the playoffs and they all stink. Like, stop with that. That's not doing your job as a sports fan, and certainly not as a member of the sports media. So just let your eyes tell you the story. Kansas City, the two signings that they made, Seth Lugo, who pitches today, and Michael Wacha in particular, and then the trade last year that kind of flew under the radar from their side of things, where they dealt Aroldis Chapman to a struggling Texas bullpen, and they got Cole Reagans. I mean, that's the one that might end up turning this entire franchise around, because you get a left-hander that you could put at the top of your rotation who's under control. That's a big time move. And I think Detroit is not going anywhere. They got a bunch of young guys in their lineup in particular that need to grow up a little bit. Talking to Spencer Torkelson. Riley Green seems to be blossoming right in front of our eyes. And Tariq Skubal is going to be an AL Cy Young candidate. I picked him at the beginning of the year. And I will tell you this, it was a much better prediction than last year's Rose AL Cy Young Award winner when I did it last March. You want to know who that was?
Who is it?
Alek Manoah.
Bingo!
Hey, don't feel bad. Don't feel bad.
I think I might have picked that too.
Don't feel bad. I got Kevin Gausman winning it this year, and my big one is the Houston Astros going to the World Series. So yeah, I'm smoking hot right now.
You're nailing this right now. You're nailing life.
I am nailing it.
Chris, sometimes with the Blue Jays, we fight and claw, as people covering that team, to look for something to, have fun and poke fun at and just watch and be like, man, that's a lot of fun to watch. Josh Naylor, whenever you watch him, I have fun watching him. Like, I know he's having a good year. What's he hitting? 275 with 8 and 26. Only reason I mentioned the 26, I don't think a J this year has 20 RBIs or more. Not one J. Why has he been good to start the season?
Well, it's because he's Canadian, guys. Let's just boil it down.
Yeah.
What the important stuff is, right?
Yeah.
Let's cut right to the big chase. And the fact he's playing with his younger brother. The other day, there was a pop-up it was near the dugout, near the first base dugout. So both Bo and Josh Naylor went after it. And, you figure, they don't even need to say anything to each other. They should just be able to have, mental telepathy, since they grew up in the same house, and it dropped right in between them. And all I could imagine was, oh my God, if that was one of my brothers, that happened with us. Oh man, that would be rough. Josh Naylor is a terrific baseball player. Now he's in a little bit actually of a dive. He struggled a little bit. They gave him a day off, I think on Sunday it was. But he treats every at bat like it's Game 7 of the World Series. He is so amped up and such a good teammate and so intense. And, he's the guy that's there to protect Jose Ramirez. And if he's struggling, then Jose's not going to see a lot of pitches. But it's actually been kind of the other way around, is, they don't want to pitch to Naylor because there's nobody behind him this point. So if we can find a number 5 hitter for our buddy Josh Naylor, I think that'll make him even that much better.
Yeah,
Chris, is there a chance that they sign this guy long term? That somehow they come to an agreement with him? Because I keep looking at that team, and I just if they could commit to some guys. I understand they committed to Jose Ramirez, but it just seems like there's a lot of good stuff going on there, man.
Yeah, so they've committed to 2 guys. It was Jose Ramirez right before the start of the 2022 season. I thought he was getting dealt to San Diego. I wake up the next morning, and I see that he signed a $142 million deal or whatever. I was like, oh, well, that never happens. Like, never. Their previous biggest outload of cash to somebody was Edwin Encarnacion, one of your old buddies, who got $65 million guaranteed. So you're talking about more than doubling it for Jose. And then they gave a 9-figure deal to Andres Jimenez, who's the Platinum Award winner. You know, he is a great defensive second baseman and gives you enough offense to where you look back at the Lindor trade and it doesn't stink. I think, and I'm not 100% certain here, I think they might have missed the boat on Josh Naylor. Like, I think this was the offseason it needed to get done, because at the end of this year, now he's going to be that much closer to free agency. I think he has maybe 2 more years. So I don't know if they're going to be able to get to the right number. I wish they would have done it in the offseason. I think he's the type of guy who is so important, not only in terms of what his ability to back up Jose in that lineup, but just to be a dude.
Yeah.
Like, I know that doesn't sound great. Doesn't sound like that's great analysis, but I think every team needs a dude that they could just hang their hat on. I think he's one of them.
Early on, you mentioned Alek Manoah. What do you think a good season for Alek is going forward?
So I watched his start the other day. I was really curious. First of all, he physically looks significantly better. I don't know if they put a number on how many LBs he dropped, but I wish I could get on that plan. And I thought his fastball looked good. I thought his slider looked all right. You know, he just hard when you haven't competed in that arena in 8 or 9 months. It's really hard. And I just hope that he's able to block out the noise, because that's tough. I think it's really tough. I think that there's a lot of baseball, unfortunately, that's not rooting for him. I'm on the side that is. I like to see guys come back. I think the sport is better when you've got a guy like Alek Manoah who can stir the pot a little bit. Like, I think he's pretty harmless.
Absolutely.
And I think he's fun, and I think he's a good dude. I had him on the Rose rotation. I liked him. I liked everything about him. So I'm rooting hard for him. I'm rooting hard. I'll be honest, guys. I'm not just wearing a Blue Jays hat because I'm coming on your station. I picked them to make the World Series and lose to the Braves this year. I look at the franchise. I'm like, how is it that, like, every year we have the same discussion with them? Why aren't the Blue Jays better? Like, that lineup should be significantly better. I know that Vlad has not done his deal. Bo Bichette hasn't been great. Springer, I mean, we're talking about a team that's like bottom 5 or bottom 6 in offensive production. I have no idea why that's happened. And outside of Berríos and Kikuchi, like, the pitching staff is, you know, my guy Chris Bassett, who's a regular on the Rose rotation, has not done his job, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. You know, Gossman's been up and down. I can't figure it out, man. I just can't.
Yeah, they've just stopped. I mean, you know, obviously we've been talking about it a lot, but they just don't hit home runs anymore.
No, they don't.
I mean, they don't. And, you know, as my friend Mr. Barker points out, you look at Vladdy's exit velo numbers, and they're nice, but they're also line drives, right? I mean, they're not, none of those. I can think of 2 hard hit balls this year where I thought, wow, that's out of here. And they weren't. And then we're both at home. The rest of the time they've been hard hit, but, you know, they're going to be doubles, or it's going to be a smoke single. There's not a lot of loss.
Chris, I think the worst part is they don't know either.
Yeah,
it's one thing for us not to know. I don't think the people that I've talked to anyway, I've talked to quite a few people around that team. I don't think they know either, or they'd have fixed it already. Sort of a thing they're still trying to figure out.
So I wonder, I feel like I put the Blue Jays and the Padres in very similar boats. They got a ton of big names, teams willing to pull the trigger on some moves, whether it's free agency or try to make some trades. But if it doesn't work, like, at what point, you can't do it as much with the Padres because of the contracts that are attached to some guys. But is this like the last year that Toronto gives this group a shot? Do they just say, hey, screw it, we're going to build around one of these guys and we're going to trade one of the other and we're going to kind of blow it up? I mean, I could see that happening.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. The two things occurred to me when the Luis Arias deal was made. One was, wow, it's awfully early to make that deal. But two, I also started to think, what if teams get really aggressive this year? Because now we talked about the Central. I think there are more teams right now that feel they have a shot at a wild card spot than just about any year I've seen baseball. There really are.
And as we've seen over the last few years, all you have to do is get to 85 or 86 wins, and winning the division and maybe getting one of those 2 byes is not as advantageous as we originally thought. It certainly hasn't been in the National League the last few years, right? The Braves and Dodgers, they were kicking everybody's butt last year. And what they do, they both get bounced in the divisional round. Now, I don't know how you could still, like, if you were to offer a team, all right, you can either play an extra series where you're not guaranteed to win, or you could have 5 days off and set your rotation and, grab a breather after a 162-game season. Which one are you going to take? There's not one team in the world that would be like, yeah, you know what? I'd rather play best of 3 and maybe even on the road. What the heck? Let's just do it just to stay sharp. Like, nobody's going to say that. But I think there is something to that. And I also believe that with the number of pitching injuries we have seen and will continue to see throughout the summer, it wouldn't shock me if your organization gets a call for some of those starting pitchers.
Yeah. No, I can absolutely see that. And the one thing with the starting pitchers, now with the exception of Kikuchi, who's a free agent, but the one thing they do bring is cost certainty because they're all under contract. So you know what you're going to be paying. And for a lot of teams, that cost certainty is hugely important. Bigger surprise to you, Chris, the timing of the Luis Arias deal, the fact that it was done so early, or the fact that it was the Padres that ended up getting him?
Nothing surprises me with A.J. Preller. Nothing. I think he's GMing, or as I said the other day, I think on Baseball Today, architecting, which I don't think is a real word, but it sounds fun.
It is a good sounding word.
Here.
Yeah, it is. Word I'd use.
I think he is architecting for his job. Let's remember their owner, who was a remarkable owner, spent money, wanted nothing more than to bring a championship to the city of San Diego, passed away in the offseason. So there's 2 new guys who are in charge. They slashed the payroll by 85, 90 million. They don't have to pay anything for a rise, right? Miami's eaten basically the entirety of the contract. And I think at some point they're going to say, hey, AJ, like, this is cute. Like, you have people enthused. Let's freaking win some games, man. Like, let's go do that. So that stuff doesn't surprise me. I think that A.J. Preller is like, I don't really care about a 19-year-old I drafted next year because I might not be here by the time he hits the show. The timing, yes, it's surprising. You don't see big-name players, certainly guys that have won back-to-back batting crowns in 2 different leagues, move the first week of May. It's very rare. I dig it. I wish more teams would pull the trigger. I really do. It drives me nuts when we're sitting at the beginning of July. We're like, which guys can go, do you think? Like, I'd love to see some big names go in June. Like, that makes it more fun. It really does. It makes it certainly more fun to cover. And if you're one of the teams that has a dude walk into your clubhouse, like, that fan base is re-energized during a really long, drawn-out season.
Yeah, it is. I was going to say, it is amazing how often when you hit the trade deadline, the holes you're looking to fill are the holes you could have filled in June. It is serious how often that happens. Sorry, Kevin.
I never understand that. Because if you like somebody and you think he can be a difference maker, like, I get it, right? We're talking about leverage. And at the end of the day, it's like when you're trying to buy a car. Well, I hate buying cars. I want to do it as quickly as possible. And by the way, if I had to pay a little bit extra, I got the car I wanted and I'm done with it.
Yeah.
I am finished and I can move on with my life. Like, I don't get it. Is it like a board game for these architecting types?
That's a greght question. I do want to ask you about George Springer because I know you've covered George. We've seen George at his best, right? Everybody wanted him for, October. He just showed up. He's hitting all these home runs, leading off. And now we've seen this George Springer. It hasn't been the best of the George Springer era that, I think everybody wanted to see. But I wonder when George is done and sort of the end is starting to look the way the end is looking. How do you think people talk about him?
You mean throughout his entire career or just the Toronto?
Yeah,
game?
I mean, it's like that lasting impression is just not going to be the greatest, right? I mean, he's still a good defender. Sounds like he's a decent enough teammate. He still can sort of run into things, but he is having a real bad time with the velocity. It just, when he looks bad, Chris, it looks really, really bad. I just wonder how people talk about him when he's done. That's all.
I think we're not going to know for probably like 20 years until somebody does the documentary on the Astros and they end up talking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because with the exception of Jose Altuve, whom all of those guys will defend to the end of the earth, and I would as well, it feels like he wasn't a part of it, right? Yeah. He didn't stop it, but somehow he has become the face of this whole thing. Like, they start a series in New York tonight. Who's going to get the most boos? It's the guy who really didn't use it to his advantage.
Yeah.
Was it advantageous to his career? Yes, it was. I mean, there were more guys on base. Other guys were driving him in. His numbers were better. He wins an MVP, all that sort of stuff. So I understand that. But as far as actually using the system when he was at the plate, it sounds like he didn't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the guys, who the hell knows? Mm-hmm. And until we have that documentary, which I'm willing to do, by the way, for a very low cost.
Absolutely.
If those guys want to talk.
Yeah.
Then I think we'll have a better idea of how we judge some of the guys who played through that time.
Yeah.
I've always liked George an awful lot. I've always liked him. I've enjoyed talking to him. I think the fact of what he grew up obviously with a major stuttering issue, and the fact that he takes the time to talk to kids and embrace them and say, hey, you're not alone in this. But to me, that matters. So it's not always about just the baseball player and what happened in Houston in 2017 through 2019.
Yeah.
Last question before we let you run. The Dodgers sweeping the Braves over the weekend. Look at the Dodgers, ultimately, it's going to be, did you win the World Series or not? But how good do you think the Dodgers are? Are we talking a historically good team right now with the Dodgers?
I don't know. I mean, they won 111 games a few years ago and then lost to the Padres in the divisional round. So you guys have covered enough baseball to know that once the tournament starts, it can be a devilish journey for exceptional teams, in part because of what we talked about, where they're off for 5 days and all that sort of stuff. It really isn't like the NFL where you want that one seed because physically it is so taxing on your body. This is just a totally different animal that we're talking about. I do think that group at the top of the lineup, and you have to include Will Smith in the 4 spot, like it could be historic in terms of production and just in terms of fun of watching them. I'm not a Dodger fan. I'm a Cleveland fan. I do love watching. I make sure I watch the first inning of every Dodger game if I can, whether it's the top of the first if they're on the road or the home first, because you're likely to see something like last night. I mean, Joe Davis's call where, I don't know if you guys heard it,
but
Shohei hits the ball, and it did sound like a cannon went off, and he basically said that. And it just sounds so different. And I know that Shohei's not the most popular person up in Toronto, so I'm probably talking to the wrong audience here.
I think they've had their they've had their say, and he homered right away. And I think at that point, people thought, all right, to hell with it. Now we're done.
Yeah. And I can understand being upset with somebody not picking, but it wasn't like he came out and said, hey, I'm locked and loaded. I'm on my way to Toronto, people. That's it. I've already found a place for me and my secret wife to live. And I've already found the perfect place for my interpreter to get booted out of the country when he has a gambling issue. He didn't say all that.
Yeah.
It was somebody else that reported that he was on a plane to Toronto. It wasn't Shohei. It was like, I'm coming. That's not what happened. So let's all just be appreciative of the freakazoid we are watching, because I have no better word for what he is other than that.
What if he just decided if he went to the Dodgers and said, you know what, I really like this hitting thing. Just, I don't know if I want to pitch. I'm just going to focus on hitting. Like, you look at his numbers this year. I think somebody did a graphic. I mean, he's basically in like the 97th percentile of everything you want to be in the 97th percentile of.
I don't think they gave him $700 million to just hit.
I know, but man, I'm wondering.
So. No, you know what they gave him $700 million for? To do business in Japan, and they've already closed 4 or 5 major deals.
Well said.
So, I mean,
it's not going to happen. I just wondered about it though. The way he's such a great offensive player.
I think it will happen at some point.
Right.
And I think part of the reason I'm looking forward to him coming back on the mound is I wonder if one day, like, he doesn't become just a closer. Like, how awesome would that be? He's already had like 3 at-bats, had a double and a homer, and here that's some freaking Little League stuff.
You know what, Joe Madden?
The biggest kid in Little League, and here he comes. You're like, oh, my God, this is awesome.
We had Joe Madden on 2 years ago, I think. 2 years ago, or just after when he started doing his podcast, and he was talking about Shohei, and he said that. You know, he said, let's just look ahead towards the end, because we were talking about how might the contract look, and blah, blah, blah. He said, what if at the end Shohei just decides, or the Dodgers say, what if you just close?
Mm-hmm.
And that way you can get your 2 at-bats that day if you want. And we kind of laughed at it, but yeah, the more you think about it, if you're the Dodgers, I mean, I don't think the Dodgers, it's not like they're going to be so short of cash that they're going to, we need Shohei Ohtani to start today because otherwise we'll be running out, we'll be doing an opener. I don't think we're ever going to see that with them. That's an interesting idea. I like it, especially at the end of the contract. Why not?
Not only that, you know, they already changed the rules because of Shohei in terms of him leaving the game but continuing to be the DH, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're going to have to go to like the high school rules where as a starter, you can be taken out or a pinch runner or a defensive replacement and then re-enter the game.
Oh, they're
going to do that just so he can end up closing. I'm telling you, mark my word, on May 7th, 2024. So that when this happens on July 17th of 2031, you can be like, hey, where's that Rose clip? What day was that? Just remember
he was wearing the Jays cap.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, this was a call from my wife. She was like, you're doing a Toronto radio station. Put that on. And I said, okay.
Looks great.
It is a solid chapeau. It
yeah.
really is.
Tremendous.
Thank you.
Chris, we appreciate you doing this as always, man. A lot of fun. Thanks for this.
You're the best, buddy. Thanks.
Absolutely. By the way, all right, that's it. I'm done.
No, what?
I was just going to say, you mentioned Joe Madden.
Yeah.
You could actually pass as like a second cousin of Joe Madden.
Who, me?
Does anybody ever say that?
No.
Really? Yeah. No?
No, he's never got that.
No, I never got that. No.
What's the split screen of you and Joe?
No,
you've gotten worse?
I used to get I used to get Matthew Perry a lot, but
I could see that.
That was pre,
Yeah. Well, boy, we really ended with this one today.
Yeah, we did. That's a real uplifting one. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Let's talk about a dead Canadian.
That's it. That's my fault. Man. I'm an idiot.
Sorry. Take care. Chris Rose, host of the Chris Rose Rotation in baseball today.
You look just like him.
Like who? Matthew Perry?
No.
Joe Madden.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to have the brush cut.
I guess. All right. Maybe I see you all the time. I don't really look at you that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matthew Perry, though, I used to get all the time. Anyhow.
I'm not sure how Ohtani would do. Say he has to hit. Say he's on the road and he has to hit in one of the innings, and then he has to run out. And it's just going to be hard to do that to close.
I mean, the thing is,
top of the inning, you're closing the bottom of the inning. How would you do that?
The thing we also know about Shohei Ohtani is there has to be some sort of routine baked into what he does. But I mean, you have to admit it's an intriguing, especially for that organization, because like I said, is there another organization that could probably go out? Shohei, we're going to let you close him. We're going to go sign, pick a guy. We're going to go sign Corbin Burns as a free agent. If any organization can do it, it's the Dodgers.
Yeah, I would think by the time that they would ask him to do that, they would have made so much money off of him that they could care less where he pitches, plays, hits.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's already paid.
Chris's point is well made. They've signed 4 major marketing deals with Japanese companies.
Yeah.
Like, if people want to know why Blue Jays ownership would have tried to sign this guy, I mean, the amount of the amount of money he is going to make for the Dodgers, and I'm not talking about uniform sales. That's small potatoes. I'm talking about Japanese-based corporations signing 5-year contracts with the Dodgers. It's no wonder we had reading The Athletic had an interview with some marketing guy who said they were talking about Shohei Ohtani's contract. He said he's going to have paid that back halfway through the deal.
Yeah.
They're going to have, it's going to be a push halfway through the deal. And if they win World Series and, knock on wood, if Shohei stays healthy, because he's never not going to be popular. I mean, if this thing hasn't made any dent in his popularity, and I don't know, maybe there's something coming down the road, but it doesn't seem like it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I would have loved to seen him in the Jays lineup just to see if it would have helped everybody else around him. See if they would have still gotten off to the slow start.
Do you think he'd be able to trust the process?
I don't think there would have been a process with him.
The process is, what do you want it to be?
Just go away. That's the process.
Leave me alone. Joe Siddall's our Blue Jays analyst on Sportsnet. He is in Philadelphia, where the Jays and Phillies will start their very brief 2-game series tonight at 6:40. He joins us next. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 5. Oh, yeah, we got tickets, too. It's Blair and Barker on Sportsnet 590, The Fan, and Sportsnet. I have no idea what the hell that is. Apparently, Chris Rose has texted a picture of Joe Madden.
Twins.
I mean, I don't see it.
Oh, man. It wouldn't hurt you to
hair.
smile. You smile every once in a while. That'd be nice.
What?
Smile.
Well, if I got a World Series ring, I'd
He's living in a van down by the river, too, which is pretty cool. I mean, he's traveling around in his RV, that big giant. You seen that RV he's got?
What?
Joe Madden. You've never seen the RV he's got? Holy, but that thing's huge. It's awesome. I think he lived in it in spring training and stuff.
Oh, stop
Pretty
it.
cool. It's true.
Let's bring in Joe Siddall,
Sure,
Blue Jay.
yeah.
Joe Siddall, Blue Jays analyst with Sportsnet, joins us from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia. Hey, Siddall, have you seen the lineup yet?
I have not. I thought you were talking about me and my RV. I don't have an RV.
No, I know you don't have an
Joe
RV.
Madden.
No, you don't
And I
want
don't
to.
have a lineup either.
No.
You don't know. You don't want to know why they were talking about Joe Madden. It was silliness. So I mean, Kevin and I basically spent the first half hour saying that George Springer should be moved out of the leadoff spot. Now we're intrigued that we haven't seen the lineup. All kidding aside, I mean, Joe, I understand the argument. Who you put in there instead of George Springer, I get all that. I come up with 4 guys off the top of my head. It wouldn't be perfect, but I'd rather see them get an extra at bat than George. Do you sense that we're on the verge of seeing the Jays do something dramatic with this lineup?
I hope we're on the verge of seeing something dramatic like that. I think it's that time. And whether they do it or not, I'm not so sure, guys. I'll believe it when I see it. I think moving George out of the leadoff spot is a fairly drastic one, but I think it's time. There are too many other guys swinging the bats. I think dropping Bo the way they did it's fine. They're trying something, but I am fairly certain Bo Bichette's going to be just fine. I'm sure it's a timing, mechanical thing that he's got going. He is going to be fine. His track record is just too good. And when he locks it in here real soon, I'm fairly certain of that happening. It's not going to be because he got dropped in the order. It's because he's a good hitter that had a bad month. Whereas George, we're seeing a little bit of a carryover from last year, and it's not good. And that's your leadoff hitter. That's your guy at the top. When the lineup turns over in the 8th inning or whatever the case may be. So I think it's time. We've seen Jano swinging the bat well. We've seen Schneider doing it, Varsho. The thing you got to be careful of is saying that you move up a Schneider, you move up a Varsho, a Jansen, and then all of a sudden those guys are maybe in spots that they're not necessarily supposed to be in, and maybe they get exploited a little bit more at the top of the order. But I think it's time to try something. And when you mentioned Schneider's name, that's the first one that kind of comes to my head to give it a shot.
Yeah, he's hitting .310, a .998 OPS versus relievers. He's hitting .300, slugging .525 off the fastball. He's got a .905 OPS versus lefties. They are facing a lefty, Joe.
Good day for it.
Absolutely. Is there something you're seeing from him differently? I know he scooted a little closer to the plate, trying to take away the spin on some breaking balls. Is there something else you're seeing that you like from him?
Seeing them and talking to him. Well, I love to talk to hitters because it's so hard to always see things with the naked eye unless you're really going to dive into video. And I think with Davis, number one, there's a little bit of a comfort level, right? He's up here now and maybe feeling like he belongs because he is doing very well. But he, like a lot of guys, and Kevin, I'm sure you had the same quotes when you played, but he stays on the fastball. And I don't know how many more times I can say that to the audience. I mean, good hitters mash fastballs, and I think I heard a pretty high number when you said he's slugging fastballs. I think what's important, though, is being on time for the fastball, but that doesn't mean, like, a lot of people are preaching, like, try to pull the ball and get it in the air more and all these things for some of these struggling hitters. But, I mean, those are scary words for hitters because you just start saying pull the ball in the air, and you can really take yourself out of your hitting mechanics and pull off the ball with your front side, and you got all kinds of things going on. I think it's more about being on time for the fastball and thinking middle of the field. And if you're on time for the fastball thinking middle of the field, you're going to crush some balls in the air to left, center, and left like David Schneider does. But you also are putting yourself in a position to adjust to the off speed. And I think he's done a really good job at that, staying on it and staying on it long enough to get some hits on the breaking pitches as well.
Is Isaiah Kiner-Falefa a better hitter than you thought he was?
No, I think he's what we thought, isn't he? I mean, he's got some big hits, I guess, at times and all, but I think he's who we thought. I didn't think he was going to come here and be an 800 OPS guy. I mean, it's just, again, track records say a lot, and then you watch guys hit, and, you know, he gets his hits. He gives you a nice at-bat. He can handle velocity a little bit, good contact guy, all those things you talk about a guy that should be in the bottom third of the order. So play great defense and do that, and I think that's who you got, right? That's who you signed up for.
Yep.
So, you know, it's been like crisis after crisis with this team. You know, woke up Monday morning and saw a tweet from Ben Nicholson-Smith, or an X, or whatever the hell it is now. And I kind of knew that the Blue Jays bullpen had you know, been in a bit of a bad run. But, Joe, 30th best ERA in baseball, 30th best fielding, independent pitching, or 30th best, worst ERA, worst fielding, independent pitching, worst home runs per 9 innings, 25th walks, strikeout to walk ratio per 9 innings. You know, we talk about the lineup and Bo and Vladdy and all this, but it seems to me that this might be the immediate crisis right now, because I don't know how they navigate the 7th and 8th inning with this bullpen right now. I have no clue.
Well, it's just been compounded the last 4 or 5 days with the fact that apparently Jimmy Garcia has not been available. So to me, that's the biggest decision of the day. I know we're all waiting on the lineup, but I'm waiting to hear, is Jimmy Garcia going on the injured list, or is he available tonight? Because one of the two things has to happen. You can't just keep going, A, without an arm, but also your best arm. So they got to make a decision here, and you hope it's not the latter. Hopefully he's good to go for tonight. But yeah, if you think, I mean, you guys know how this works. What do you think Schneider and Pete Walker are doing in that dugout as we put the cameras on them? Their hands are tied. They're guys that can't pitch. There are guys that, because of all the struggles we've talked, you know, from the left side, Cabrera and Meza haven't quite been the same this year. You know, Meza's coming around, it looks like, and you're without Swanson and Romano for the first couple of weeks. So it's kind of been accelerating. The troubles have been accelerating, right? And it's how do you deal with it? Well, then you get guys that pitch back-to-back days. Well, then they're not available. So there are times when there are 2 and 3 guys that haven't been available down there. So I don't know how you keep navigating like that. Now, obviously, you need starters like Berríos to go 7 tonight. That always helps. But the starting rotation is fine. You know, Manoah had that blip, but the other guys, you'll take them any day of the week, and you kind of have to hope Jose is Jose tonight, the major league leader in ERA against a very potent lineup.
Do you think Trevor Richards' changeup now is good enough to pitch the 8th inning, no matter who he's facing?
Wow, that's a lot, Kev. I mean, I'd love to say yes to give the guy credit for pitching really well, but I'm just not a big fan of that little 2-pitch mix and that one main pitch late in the ball game like that. Well, he's another one that, like, I mean, it might work for a few weeks or a month or what, but is that your guy going forward? It's like, just, you know, you really need Eric Swanson to figure this thing out. And Jimmy to get back, because when these guys are healthy, and then think about Chad Green coming back, it's pretty tough to go without those guys, right? I mean, the season started and we were talking about, do we use the depth word? How many times it's coming out of spring training? Depth, all this pitching depth. Yeah, well, guess what? There isn't much pitching depth anymore, and you've got these injuries. So it's tough. And now when you're talking about doing something like that with Richards, I would say once again, it's like moving up a guy that hits 6th to hit 2nd, and sometimes he can get exploited. So hopefully he keeps doing his thing. Trevor's been pretty good lately. He's had a few good, I think, scoreless outings in a row, and if he can keep doing that, great. But I think you're that's a little hopeful, wishful thinking there to ask a guy like that to just jump into that role.
Yeah, you mentioned Berríos. Berríos has been outstanding against lefties. Philly's got some really good left-handed hitters. My question to you is, if you're catching Jose, and you got a bunch of lefties who sit spin and are really good at hitting that thing to the moon, how do you set it up? I'm not saying don't throw it, but how do you set it up to where, if you miss with one of them, Jose's a human. He's going to miss, that thing ain't going to spin the way he wants it to spin. How do you set it up to get away with those?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because that's exactly the problem, right? When you play better teams, they're more likely to hammer your mistake.
Yeah.
When you're playing the offenses that aren't quite as good, you can get away with a lot. How many times we say it on a broadcast when people say, "Oh, this guy's hitting the spots, been staying away from the middle of the plate all night." Baloney. Pitchers make tons of mistakes, right?
Yeah.
They do. Pitchers, look at a game. Watch closely. A lot of pitches in the middle of the plate. Just a lot of times you get away with stuff. And against a lineup like this, you're right, Kev. Like, it's going to be tough to get rid of, get away with one of those spinners in the middle of the plate. I think if you keep, I think what he's done really well to these lefties, four-seamer up and away, sinker up and away. He's been kind of pounding up there with the spinner. Now, I think you do have to come in on occasion. We've seen him do it, but you've got to get those guys thinking in a little bit just to get them thinking and leaking a little bit, and then maybe they pull off.
Joe, he's got that cutter. How about that cutter up and into the lefties? How about that?
Oh, come on. That cutter, I talked about it all spring because I thought he had a new pitch.
I know.
We haven't even seen it. You don't know. To me, he's got two really good pitches. You live and die with them, and don't be experimenting with a third thing because he's really too good the way things are rolling.
Yeah, you're right.
Joe, we're going to let you run, man. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, buddy.
Look forward to your call tonight. Be well.
Always fun, guys. Take care.
Joe Siddall, Blue Jays analyst on Sportsnet. He'll have the call of the game. Well, actually, Shulman will have the call of the game tonight, but Joe will be along. And I think we appreciate Joe joining us. I know he's scooting off to do a sit-down with Rob Thompson, the Phillies manager.
The only thing I know about the lineup is Davis Schneider is playing left field. Where he's hitting in the order, no. But I do know that he's playing left.
I mean, I'm looking at this. I mean, it's a secret. It's a secret. Really. You know what? Just put the lineup together.
Put some names
like
in there.
This. Put the names in the hat.
Yeah, but don't put George's name in there.
Take George's name out.
Yeah, you put it in there when you want to, whenever, you want it to put in the order. That's kind of funny.
The fact the lineup isn't out yet. Now, Joe is right. I would think that the most pressing issue right now is Jimmy Garcia. Right? If Jimmy Garcia needs to go on the IL,
that has nothing to do with the lineup, though.
You don't know. You just don't know.
Yeah, I know it doesn't have anything to do with the lineup.
What are they doing? Are they trying to explain this? What do they have? A video presentation for old George?
Well, there's two buses, depending on which bus he's on.
Yeah. That's true.
They didn't call George on a day off. George don't care enough on a day off.
Yeah.
He's going to pick up the phone, so that's not happening. You know as well as anybody. There's an early bus and there's a late bus.
That is
true.
Is he
taking that early bus? I don't know.
That is very true.
So
little things people don't know about, don't realize. It is true.
Well, it is funny that the lineup's not out yet. Normally, I would think it's out already. 3:45 is when the manager's speaking.
They could
you would think it's up now.
They could just be doing it to piss us off too. Given the way today's gone, nothing would surprise me.
Let's make Jeff Blair even madder than he already is.
Given the way today's gone, nothing to surprise me. Let me do something nice. Let me do something nice for you.
Do you really want to?
No.
Do you mean it?
Let me give you a chance to see the Twins and the Jays at the Rogers Center. How about that?
You're making them earn it. You ain't really giving it to them.
Well, yeah, that's true. We've been giving you the chance to win Blue Jays tickets all season long here in Blair and Barker. All you have to do is text the correct answer to our daily baseball trivia question to 590-590. Our last trivia question and answer was, this really isn't trivia. Twins slugger Justin Morneau won the AL MVP award in 2006, narrowly defeating which player for the award? Would you have gotten it? It was Derek Jeter. I would not have gotten it either, but it's still not a trivia question. Today's question is to win tickets to see Jays and Twins at the Rogers Center on Saturday, May 11th.
Yeah.
This isn't nothing that happened last year can be trivia.
Sure it can.
Okay.
In In the past, Jeff.
Which player hit 2 home runs in Game 1 of the Twins-Blue Jays AL Wildcard Series in 2023?
I'd have got this one.
Yeah. Which player hit 2 home runs in Game 1 of the Twins-Blue Jays AL Wildcard Series in 2023?
I think he's hurt.
Oh.
They know. This is... Everybody knows
Well, of course
this.
it's true because your first reaction could be if he's hurt in the Twins, it's Byron Buxton. It's not Byron Buxton.
No.
Anyhow, text the answer
That's not who people are saying.
Text the answer to 590 for your shot to win. See rules at sportsnet.ca.
Did Buxton even play in the playoffs?
I don't know, but I
said
you said was the guy hurt or not? And I said that, injuries, Twins, who's the first person you think of? Unfortunately, you think of Byron Buxton. Anyhow, my Twins are in town this weekend. I'm
your Twins.
They are my Twins.
Yeah, no, they're not.
They are my Twins.
You flip-flop. It's the Rays one year when the Rays are good.
This is the team I grew up cheering.
Well,
this is the team I grew up cheering for. This is my team. The Twinkies are my team.
I used to root for the Braves too. I'm not sure the Braves are my team.
No, Twinkies are
growing
my
up.
Twinkies. Twinkies are my team.
If they would have like been 0-11 in their last 11 games, would they still been your Twinkies?
Yeah, I just wouldn't have told people.
That is a lie.
I just wouldn't have told people that. They
You would have complained off air to me why the Twinkies stink. And
it'll be the first game the Twins have played the Jays since Jose Berríos was taken.
Dum.
I'm not. You know what?
You think John Snyder on purpose is going to take him out in the 4th inning against a couple of lefties?
I'm going to make a pledge right now. I promise that when we have Schneider on Friday, I'm not going to ask him about that.
I bet you will.
No, I'm not. I've moved on from that. I think we all need to move on from that.
Never. Never. Tell me what to do.
Well, I'm intrigued now that the lineup isn't out.
Yeah, there's a reason why it's not out.
There is. Maybe George saying, not playing.
What if it's not George?
Could be.
Yeah. Why didn't even Turner tonight? Some khaki saying, boy, we got to reinvent the wheel.
That could be. That could be.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on now. I just got. Just wondering. No,
suspense is killing me.
Suspense is no. There's no suspense to. There's no suspense to this. So again, we await the Jays lineup for the first of 2 games.
Did our producer really text us this?
What?
That to tell us that Aaron Sanchez is making a start in Buffalo on Friday.
Yeah, he did.
If we care or not.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, no, we don't.
I mean, we wish him well.
Yeah,
we wish him well.
We're big fans of Aaron.
And the way this year, Aaron Sanchez, not Aaron Boone. And the way this, I thought you said Aaron Boone.
I didn't.
And the way the season has gone, who knows? Aaron Sanchez could be pitching in another week up here.
Oh, there's no question.
No, and again, yesterday when the Jays signed Aaron Sanchez, predictably, and this is why I should just predictably, they're not doing anything. Oh, Aaron Sanchez, that'll make a difference. People, they signed him so he could start at AAA because they're running out of arms because guys keep getting hurt. Nobody's bringing him in to win the pennant.
I've never wanted a guy to come up and make a start so bad after that comment you just made. Gosh,
I mean, I hope
fingers crossed. Like 2 weeks from now, they announced that Aaron Sanchez will be making the start. Boy, it will be. That's a small prayer that I'm going to make to myself that happens.
Give me the Jays because it says I have to ask you this on the sheet here. Give me the Jays' keys to victory against Philly tonight.
Pray. What's that? There's your key. Pray. Lots of praying. It's the obvious thing. Berríos needs to go 8 scoreless.
Oh God! I mean that is the question here is I just don't know. I thought we talked about it before we came in the air. How do you go about managing a bullpen when your middle relievers are basically the bridge to your closer who you're already sort of, because of his health issues, you're already being careful
8
with.
Starts in, you lean on your rotation. The best pitcher you got is throwing tonight against one of the better teams in baseball. You lean on that team.
And you know what? And you
got it, buddy. You're coming off a day off. Like, he should be mentally fresh.
That's a good point.
He's feeling frisky. He won pitcher of the month. He's facing a really good team. He want to show off. Got some nice toys he's throwing. Like that slurve, slider, curve, never been better. I can add that cutter, elevate it to a lefty. I think he's going to throw that. Watch. Don't listen to Joe. He's going to throw that tonight.
You going to throw the cutter tonight?
He's going to pull the string with that changeup, and he's going to flip that thing. Yeah, you lean on that. John Schneider, just get out of the way. If Petey starts saying, he looks a little tired. No habla. No, I'm good. You see what we got down in that pen, bud? No, we're good. Unless it's the 9th inning, don't speak to me. How about that, Jeff? Yeah. That's your key to victory. It's just don't listen, John.
You could always pull a Jim. You could always pull a Jim Fregosi and get thrown out of the game because you don't like your bullpen. That's happened in the past.
Yeah.
I'd rather not have to make the call. I don't want to watch
this.
How
about it? You earn your money from the 6th inning on as a manager, right?
Yeah. You may be kidding and laughing aside. That may be the answer to this. Is
I know
ride the starters.
That'd be the answer for me.
Ride the starters,
especially Jose. He's feeling good. You see strike one, get out of the way. Just don't look out there. Just enjoy what you're hearing. The booing from the Phillies fans. It's just like that's all you do.
I just keep wondering about life as a Blue Jays starting pitcher. With all the stuff that went on with Alek Manoah yesterday. Oh, here is the Jays lineup.
Dumb.
Well, dumb is right. George Springer leading off in right field.
He is.
Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting second. Turner, Bichette, Schneider, Kirk, Kiner-Falefa, Kiermaier, and Berríos is starting.
Wait, Danny Jansen's not playing?
No, Alejandro Kirk. Danny Jansen's DHing. Alejandro Kirk is catching. So there you go.
Yeah.
So Springer, Guerrero, Turner, Bichette, Schneider, Jansen, Kirk, Kiner-Falefa, Kiermaier.
Key to victory is pray. That's your victory. That's your key.
There you go. The mystery is solved.
The
mystery is solved.
Well, you had a golden opportunity there.
You knew they weren't going to listen.
I knew it, but
you know they weren't going to listen to us.
I thought I was sending.
You knew what? You knew that they weren't going to do it.
No, I didn't know. No, I'd had conversations earlier about rumblings.
Well, there you go. It's trust.
That's too bad.
That's another day to trust the process.
That's too bad.
Another day. Maybe it's got to do with the bat.
That's hard contact the other way on small speed pitches.
Of course,
that's what it is.
Of course, it's going to happen. Is George is going to go like 4 for 5.
I mean, well, you know what you'd say? It's about time. They give you $25 million. Like the slow start, and that's over. That's what you say.
I will say this about the Blue Jays. They are, God love them, they're definitely not panicking.
Boy, they are
not panicking.
They put their foot in the ground with that one.
They are not panicking. They are not panicking at all. So there you go. A reminder that Barker and Blair and Barker, let's call it Barker and Blair from now on.
Take it.
Blair and Barker will be doing Blue Jays talk following tonight's game. Winning edition tonight. And we'll be doing Blue Jays talk tomorrow. It'll be an addition. We'll be doing Blue Jays talk tomorrow as well, following the afternoon start on Sportsnet 590, The Fan.
Barker and Madden.
And Sportsnet.